What's up, you guys? There's going to be a lot unfolding this week. Executive action signed, and also I've got video footage as Pete Buttigieg is asked, why are we not talking about stimulus checks, child tax credits, and dealing with our economy more in these midterm elections?
You didn't mention one of the first achievements, those direct payments to American families in the wake of the pandemic, the expansion of the child tax credit. A lot of Democrats think that your candidate should be speaking more about those accomplishments from last year.
So you're going to want to see this video footage, articles. I'm going to get you caught up on the latest. This is your breaking news, stimulus check update and stimulus package update. Now, we're hearing that this week is going to be big. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to be addressed by the president. Like I said, executive actions. Here's an article that just came out. Biden to sign executive orders aimed at lowering drug costs. And I've got video footage as he discusses this over the weekend, some of the things that are going to be happening. And also, Pete Buttigieg, he is asked about an impending recession coming. And he says, it's possible, but it is not inevitable. And he's like, we can get away from this. And also, they're saying with midterm elections, people hurting and a recession, why not discuss more economic help? People need more assistance right now, and they are hurting, you guys. Well, I'm going to give you all the details, share with you the video footage, and we're hearing, like I said, as we get closer to midterm elections, there's going to be a lot ramping up, and this week is going to be a big week. So let's go ahead and dive right in, get you caught up on the latest. Now, before we do me a quick favor, smash the like button, helps out with the YouTube algorithm. If you appreciate the content, thank you so much. Also, if you want to stay up to date, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. It's free, and you can get updates all the time of what's going on with Congress, stimulus, the economy, everything taking place. I've also got a second channel where I'm releasing more content, Steve Ram Finance, and I have a comprehensive list of every stimulus check in the nation for states, cities, counties. We're adding to the list. I have well over 100. People don't realize there are that many stimulus check provisions going out. Many of them, though, you have to know about it, you have to apply, and they're only available for a limited amount of time. You can get access to everything at www.reliefroadmap.com. Literally months of work that I put into that, assembling it all into one place. But with that being said, you guys, let's go ahead and dive right in, get you caught up on the latest, as there's a lot unfolding this week. All right, guys, so link in the description below to this article that came out October 14th. If you'd like to read it for yourself, it's cited down below, came out from Axios, and it says, Biden to sign executive orders aimed at lowering drug costs. Now, it says that President Biden on Friday will sign an executive order directing administrative officials to consider further action to lower prescription drug costs, the White House announced. Now, why it matters. With less than a month before the midterms, Biden is focusing on healthcare costs to help position Democratic candidates. And yes, this all circles around the midterm elections. As you guys know, members of Congress, they literally can make these promises and say these things and drag it out for 2 years, not doing anything. And then when it's election time, when their positions of power are up for grabs, suddenly we see them motivated to start getting things done. That is exactly what we're seeing as midterm elections. They are only 3 weeks away. Now, it says the big picture, Biden's order would complement the Inflation Reduction Act and specifically the provisions allowing the federal government to negotiate some prescription drug prices. However, polls show that while the public is familiar with the law, they are unaware of its key health provisions. So even though they support a lot of these things, this specific piece of legislation, they're not even sure what it's going to be doing for them. Still, many of the law's goals have strong public support, including limiting out-of-pocket prescription drug costs for people on Medicare and capping monthly out-of-pocket insulin costs for Medicare recipients. Now, the executive order directs the Department of Health and Human Services to explore additional actions that it can take to lower prescription drug costs. HHS will now have 90 days to submit a report on how it will use the new models of healthcare payments and delivery to lower drug costs and promote access to innovative drug therapies for beneficiaries enrolled in Medicare and Medicaid programs. So you guys, this is a new executive order. And now, in addition to that, this week we're hearing a lot of things are going to be unfolding. We're going to be seeing that here in just a second. But first, take a look at what the president had to say about it.
Today, I'm here to talk about what my introducer talked about lowering drug costs, lowering costs for Americans across the country. And I know it's been a rough 4 or 5 years in this country for an awful lot of people. We've made a lot of progress, but folks are still struggling. We can't kid ourselves about that. I wrote a thing called the Inflation Reduction Act, one of the most significant laws in history when it comes to helping families pay their bills at the end of the month. And we talk about a little bit about prescription drugs today, because today is an important day for those on Medicare. We pay more for our prescription drugs than any other nation in the world. And by the way, it's the same exact drug, not just a drug, but the same manufacturer. We pay considerably more than they do in France, Canada, Spain, anywhere around the world. I know the names of these pieces of legislation are just boring, but the Inflation Reduction Act caps the cost of insulin for seniors on Medicare at $35 per prescription instead of $400 per prescription. $400. You know how much it costs? You know how much it costs them to make that drug? $15 to make it and package it. $35 is a lot of money compared to $15. They're going to make a good profit. We're going to keep fighting for lower costs for cost of living of insulin for children and families as well. Because the Inflation Reduction Act, seniors in Medicare Part D are also going to be able to get their recommended vaccines like shingles vaccines and vaccines without any copays. And they've been paying an average of $100 to $200 a month for the shots. Nothing. Zero. You're not going to pay anything for the needed vaccines. And starting this week, it's a big deal. We're making hearing aids more affordable. We're also making them available over the counter so people don't have to pay the expensive visit to a specialist. Over the last few years, we've faced some of the most difficult challenges in our history, both domestically and in foreign policy. And we're making real progress, helping folks just get a little more breathing room. Despite the opposition from the most powerful interest, special interest, we're lowering health care costs. We're strengthening Medicare. We're fighting for folks who need our help. And one of the reasons why it's so important to America's future, we just have to remember. We have to remember who in God's name we are. This is the United States of America. No, think about it. And I've never been more optimistic in my life.
So there you have it, you guys. That was the president. And also, we're hearing that there's going to be more unfolding, and they're saying this is going to be to help lower gas prices. And we're going to hear them ask, though, with midterm elections coming up and the number one top concern of Americans across the nation being the state of the economy and us potentially entering into a recession, we're hearing, why not address more economic issues? And we're going to see the response from Pete Buttigieg. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Let's talk about the Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg. Mr. Secretary, thank you for joining us this week. We saw President Biden out there saying that he's going to be announcing more steps to take on inflation and particularly gas prices this week. What more can he do?
Well, I won't get ahead of the president, but as you have seen throughout this year, he's taken a number of steps, everything from flexibility on ethanol to the release from the Strategic Oil Reserve to try to create a little bit of breathing room for families that are paying too much at the pump. Also drawing attention to the fact that you've got a lot of corporations that are wildly profitable right now and what seems to be a larger than usual spread between wholesale oil prices and what we're paying at the pump for gasoline. This is part of a bigger focus that the president has sustained throughout this year on fighting inflation and creating more of that breathing room for American families, which is part of why achievements like the Inflation Reduction Act, lowering the cost of health care, lowering the cost of energy for American families, it's why that's so important, and it's why we can't turn back on the progress that's been made, especially because we know there's still a long way to go.
Right now, as you know, those numbers are weighing on Democrats as you head into the midterms, just about 3 weeks left before the midterm elections. How should Democrats address it?
Look, I think the good policy is good politics, and we have been doing the right thing for the American people with proposals that are and achievements legislatively that are popular because they make sense. That's true of the infrastructure law, which having been signed about a year ago, now we're actually out there making these improvements to bridges, roads, airports, things around the country that need work. And I think part of what this administration and this president were elected to do was to deliver on things like that. Same with the Inflation Reduction Act. I mean, here you have this environment where Americans are facing a lot of pressure because prices are up, and we have ways to bring prices down. On prescription drugs, letting Medicare finally negotiate, capping insulin for those on Medicare at $35 a month, that $2,000 out-of-pocket cap on prescription drugs. And remember, there are proposals in the Republican Congress right now to reverse all of that, which would mean that premiums and prescription drug costs would go up. And it is exactly the wrong time to do that. It's the wrong time to do anything that would increase costs for healthcare or anything else for the American people. We're going to focus on that, focus on the achievements that have been made in this Congress and under this president, as well as the vision for the future.
You didn't mention one of the first achievements, those direct payments to American families in the wake of the pandemic, the expansion of the child tax credit. A lot of Democrats think that your candidate should be speaking more about those accomplishments from last year.
Well, we are proud of those accomplishments. The things that those accomplishments have done, first of all, contributing to historic job creation under this president, 10 million plus jobs. That's never happened in this time period in a presidency before in American history. Remember, we have our challenges right now, but when the president took office, we were facing an economy that was at risk of going into free fall. The American Rescue Plan stopped that, and it went directly into easing the burden for Americans with those tax benefits that Americans got, and it went into projects that are improving communities all around the United States. I was back in my hometown, saw some infrastructure projects that they're doing there with some of that ARP money. The mayors know what to do with it, communities know what to do with it, families know what to do with it, and I do think we run the risk because there have been so many accomplishments. Right, the CHIPS Act that's bringing manufacturing back to the United States, the PACT Act getting veterans the benefits they deserve, of course the infrastructure bill, the Inflation Reduction Act. On top of that American Rescue Plan, in some ways, having achieved so much legislatively makes it hard to talk about it all at once because there are just so many accomplishments.
The threat of a recession is still looming. We saw the head of J.P. Morgan, Jamie Dimon, said it's all but certain to be coming in a few months and it's going to be bad. How worried are you?
Look, it's possible but not inevitable, and we're doing everything we can to strengthen the foundations of the American economy. And that means a lot on the supply side, expanding the productive capacity of this country. Part of why we do see a lot of pressure on prices is that while demand has come back, Americans have more income because Americans have jobs in this almost historically low level of unemployment. It's been hard for the supply side to keep up. That's a big part of what we're working on the infrastructure side, dealing with some of the bottlenecks that we have, dealing with some of the constraints that we have in transportation infrastructure that's needed to be upgraded for decades, which is why Washington has talked about doing something about it for decades. And under this president, it has finally gotten done.
So there you have it, you guys. Let me know your thoughts. Now, like I said, we're hearing there's going to be a lot of things addressed this week. And over the course of the next 3 weeks, as we enter into midterm elections, we're going to be seeing what the Democrats, Congress, President Joe Biden decide to do to get things done. Now, also, I've reported to you previously, child tax credits, stimulus checks, Social Security increases, all of these things we're also hearing are going to get pushed out after midterm elections and rolling into the new year. So whatever unfolds, though, I'll be sure to keep you guys up to date every step of the way here on the channel. So that is the latest. And as always, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far, you haven't already, don't forget, smash the like button. Helps out the channel a ton. Thank you so much. Leave your comments, share this out. If you want to stay up to date, it's free. Hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. Any specific questions, check out the second channel and www.reliefroadmap.com to get access to every stimulus check in the nation on every level, states, cities, counties, all in one place. But with that being said, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless.